Hey everybody, this is Mr. Schaefer with an algebra lesson on intercept form of a quadratic function. So we've talked about and seen standard form before. We're going to look at that in a minute. But intercept form is just another way that we can look at a quadratic function and from it extract information and then graph the corresponding parabola. And what's nice about intercept form is that you can right away find the x-intercepts because it's already factored for us. You can see the two factors in this case, x minus p and x minus q, where p and q are numbers, they're values. There's that a coefficient in there as well, that leading coefficient. But it looks a little different than what we are used to. So x-intercepts in this case will simply be p and q. P comma 0 and q comma 0. Be careful though, because what you'll see in the form is a minus sign potentially, so we really want the opposite of p and the opposite of q. And I'll show you what that looks like in just a moment. Now the axis of symmetry. Remember that formula is x equals opposite of b divided by 2 times a, which works great in standard form, except we don't have standard form here. This is intercept form. So that formula is not going to be really helpful for us, at least right now, with the situation that we're given. Remember, though, that x equals some number is still going to be the axis of symmetry. And what we should know and remember is that the axis of symmetry is going to be halfway between the two x-intercepts. And the vertex, again, we're not going to really be able to use opposite of b over 2 times a. But once we figure out that halfway point between the x-intercepts and have that x number, then we simply substitute that x value from the axis into the quadratic function. To find y. And then we'll have the x and the y for the vertex. Now what I want to do is actually the back side of this activity where there's an example, we're going to graph a parabola in intercept form. The function here is in that a times x minus p, x minus q format. So let's begin what is listed here as example 2. My a value is 1/2, and it's positive, so the parabola is going to be opening up. That's still a true relationship to remember. Here's my a value. P is going to be 8, and q is going to be 2. It's not -8 and -2. The x-intercept would be positive 8, comma 0, and then positive 2, comma 0. So right away, I can plot 8, 0, and 2, 0. There they are. The axis of symmetry is going to be right in the middle of those two. Looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units separate the 8 from the 2. Halfway down the middle would be right there at 5. So let's draw a vertical dashed line right there through x equals 5. There's my axis of symmetry. It's the halfway point between 8 and 2. So I can put the 5 right in here as well. It's the x-coordinate of the vertex. Now we need the y-coordinate of the vertex. So to find that, we're going to plug in 5 to our function. The quadratic function is y equals 1/2 times x minus 8, but we're going to plug in 5 for x. And then times x minus 2, again, another 5. So we have 1/2 of -3 times positive 3. That'll be 1/2 of -9, or -4.5. So there's our vertex. 5, comma, negative 4.5. Looks like the parabola is going to be opening up like we established earlier, so that so far looks pretty good. The y-intercept we said was the c value. The c value, where is the c value in this equation? Well, it's non-existent because this is not standard form. This is intercept form. Intercept form is y equals a times x minus p x minus q. I can get the x-intercepts pretty quickly. It's in factored form, but I don't know what the y-intercept is. So a little bit of digging. Remember that every y-intercept of a function has 0 as its x-coordinate. Where does the function cross the y-axis? Well, that can only happen when x is 0. So the good news is we can actually get that solution pretty quickly simply by plugging in 0 for x. 1/2 times 0 minus 8 times 0 minus 2. Or 1/2 times negative 8 times negative 2, which is positive 16, and then 1/2 of 16 gives me positive 8. So we have a y-intercept of 0, 8. Way up there. And remember that we can get symmetrical points. So if I have, let's see here, that 0, 8 is a point on the parabola 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 ticks away from the axis of symmetry. I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ticks on the opposite side and make a symmetric point. So there I now have 5 points, which are plenty and just enough for me to finish that parabola sketch. And that's how you graph a quadratic equation, a parabola, when the function is written in intercept form. Begin with the x-intercepts and then kind of work your way through the axis of symmetry, and then the vertex, the y-intercept, until you get enough points to make your sketch. So to conclude, I'd like you to write down both forms that we've learned so far for quadratic equations, standard form and intercept form. Standard form is y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. And our new form, intercept form, is y equals a, that same leading coefficient is in both forms, but intercept form is going to be factored. So it's going to look like this: x minus p times x minus q, where p and q again are those x-intercept or solution values. We can even go back and forth between the two forms. Check out example A. Write the function given in standard form. Notice that here a and b, they're already factored. So here they're factored. We want to write them into standard form. So the way we do that is we simply multiply them together. Use box method, use FOIL to go from intercept form into standard form. So if we FOIL this thing, we'll have x squared and then negative 3x plus 7x minus 21. Or in standard form, that'll be x squared plus 4x minus 21. Combine like terms, and there's our function. These two parabolas are the exact same thing. The forms are just different. One is in standard form, and the other is in intercept form. And finally, let's go backwards. Given the standard form here, write the function in intercept form. So here we're given that factored, or we're given that multiplied version, that FOILed version. We now have to factor. Intercept form, by the way, is sometimes known as factored form. It's a quick form that lets us find the solutions or find the x-intercepts of the parabola pretty quickly. So for this question here, factor x squared plus 7x plus 10. Two numbers that multiply to 10 and add to 7 would be 5 and 2. So here is the function written in intercept form. The a value is a 1. Be careful too, if this question was looking for x-intercepts or solutions, make sure that you don't say 5 and 2. The x-intercepts would be -5 and -2. So watch out for that distinction with intercept form. Thanks for watching. Hope that was helpful to you today.